lines up a lot with what really happened. I'm going to be dropping in and out of the storyline and stating the true events alongside the general plot, but hopefully this helps to paint out the true picture of what happened in the season and beyond it. Episode 1 begins all the way back in 1979, and things become complicated when Lord Mountbatten is killed in an attack carried out by the IRA. The real-life organisation first appeared in the late 60s, and it attempted to end the British rule over Northern Ireland. Ireland had very much been ransacked by the Troubles, and my grandfather, who was Irish, actually came to England due to the conflicts and attacks that were rife throughout the country. They claimed responsibility for this and very much rebelled against an empire which had led to famine, poverty, and destabilisation. The fallout of this attack, alongside the themes of power, are very much the backdrop of Season 4, and we watch as the family question their role in the public eye. Clearly, the IRA are seeking change, and they aren't the only ones either. Season 4 also sees the appointment of the first female Prime Minister, who I'm sure you're well aware was Margaret Thatcher. Nicknamed the Iron Lady, Thatcher carried this reputation due to her almost unfeeling and unapologetic actions. In many ways, Thatcher and the Queen mirror one another, and they faced the same difficulties when first gaining power. Men tried to force them down certain paths, but they stood strong in front of these and refused to be overpowered. Gillian Anderson plays her expertly throughout the season, and you almost forget that she's a woman who's despised by a vast majority of people. Not my proudest want of a person in power, but being from the northeast, me and my family very much have a certain view of Thatcher, and though I'm still not a fan of her, I think the season does an incredible job of portraying the ins and outs of her time in power. Thatcher was very much responsible for several colliery closures, and this led to the miners' strike of 1984. Coal was slowly becoming more and more unprofitable, and the shutdown of this industry led to a lot of poverty and hardship for those affected by it. Clearly, she's a very complicated character, and there's almost the sense of the patriarchy being examined, with us questioning how certain aspects of society have to be remade for the new world, and if it's worth the cost. I know that many still like her, and if you disagree with my opinion or not, I'm sure that we can both agree that she's a very divisive character. Thatcher at one point also brings up the fact that her son Mark has been captured in Algeria, and the Queen is quite shocked to see her state that he is her favourite child, even though she had twins. This makes the Queen start to question who her favourite child is, and speaking of them, the Season 2 puts Anne and Charles' respective relationships in the spotlight. Anne's marriage is very much falling apart, and though Charles's seems to be blossoming, as we know from the real-world events behind his time with Diana, it was extremely tragic. Lady Di has recently reappeared in the limelight due to a documentary on ITV which discusses her infamous interview with Martin Bashir. The interview was released on the 14th of November, which just so happened to be Charles's birthday. Ooh, shade! Netflix shows are typically released on a Friday, and though this is just a theory that I have, I think the season was dropped on the 15th as to not ruin it with its release the day of or before. The interview itself was highly controversial, and this blew Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles completely out into the open. Diana described Camilla as the third person in their marriage, and even today, Camilla is viewed in a certain way by the public. The meeting also discussed her struggles with bulimia, and very much painted her out as someone who was dealing with problems that a regular person would. Diana very much brought a change in the royal family, and before her arrival, they kept themselves to themselves. However, where she differed is that she would visit people like HIV patients, those affected by landmines, and the poor and vulnerable. In regards to those with AIDS, Diana broke new ground by shaking hands without gloves and hugging those with the disease. At the time, society very much viewed those with it as almost lepers, and her doing this helped to break the stigma. This almost saint-like persona caused many to adore her, and even decades after her death, she's still viewed as the people's princess. We have heard several rumours from those in the palace that the royals were jealous of how Diana was perceived by the public, and her actions very much changed the way that the monarchy now act. They are far more outgoing and attend several public events often due to her influence, and it's not hard to become attached to her throughout all the episodes. She was an uptown girl, in a way, you could say, living in an uptown world, now that I think about it. And their marriage was of course doomed from the start, and we see as Diana discovers a drawing made by Charles inscribed with the letters F and G, which stands for Freddie and Gladys. In real life, this reportedly happened slightly differently, and the bracelet was inscribed with G and F, which apparently stood for Girl Friday. It also wasn't a drawing that Diana found, and instead was the bracelet itself. It said that the night before their wedding, Charles told her he didn't love her, and even when the pair were asked if they were in love, Charles said, whatever that means. Sadly, due to the affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, Diana was very much lied to by everyone around her for about 10 years. This wasn't just a one-off throughout the day. Every single person in the palace covered for Charles and lied to her face, which must have felt like a massive betrayal upon the discovery of it. Charles, of course, wanted to marry Camilla right from the start, but when he joined the Royal Navy in 1973, their relationship ended. Charles very much still loved her though. However, she was viewed as unsuitable by the palace and not future queen material because of her lifestyle. Charles had to choose between his heart and his duty, and he initially settled on the latter before drifting to the former. Though Lord Mountbatten too tried to steer him in a certain direction, he found solace in Camilla after the character's death, and the two rekindled their relationship. Diana too struggled with motherhood, and the family's trip to Australia put further difficulties upon them. Diana really tried her best to win Charles round, but it became ever more difficult for him to put his ego to the side and accept that her being popular also put him in a good light. After a ski accident caused by an avalanche, Charles realised that life was too short and that he couldn't continue to live in this loveless relationship simply to keep up appearances. You kind of feel bad for everyone in this situation, as Charles has really been forced down this route with Diana in order to make the marriage work for the monarchy. This is something similar to what the Queen likely experienced, and there's an amazing moment in episode 9 where we see the future for the couple should they continue down this path. Diana wants to make things work, and she even temporarily breaks things off with her lover, James Hewitt, who, he's Harry's dad, isn't he? Sorry, I just had to drop that conspiracy theory in there. However, Charles still loves Camilla and simply can't continue, and thus things fall apart even further. Now, whilst we don't know this for definite, it is said that the royals tried to besmirch Diana's reputation and that they leaked certain things to the press, such as her extramarital activities. Diana went to New York on board a Concorde, and Charles came under the belief that things would go badly for her, but as we see, it's quite the opposite. Diana is simply too popular with the public, and no matter what, Camilla will never be able to top this. Whatever Charles does, he will be hated, and Camilla doesn't want to be labelled as the mistress who came between their marriage. This makes Charles hate things even more, and he becomes determined to end things once and for all. It isn't the only thing that comes to a close either, and the finale showcases the end of Margaret Thatcher's rule as Prime Minister. Thatcher was the longest-serving PM since 1827, however, due to her poll tax policies and opposition to Europe, dissent in her party started to arise. Thatcher faced those around her, slowly losing faith in her leadership, and she failed to gain a majority in the Conservatives' annual leadership vote. Thatcher very much wanted to hold on to her power, and she even went to the Queen in the hopes that she would be able to intervene and dissolve Parliament. The Queen refused to do this, as she realised that everyone was against her, and that it was not the will of the people to keep her in the job. We watch as Thatcher resigns, and leaves Downing Street for the very last time. Now in the season, even though they've had their differences, the Queen very much appreciated all that she'd done, as well as the criticisms that she constantly faced. Thatcher was awarded with the Order of Merit, which currently is only held by 24 living people. Though Thatcher did not step away from politics until she retired in 1992, the TfL exit is one of the most memorable moments in the show. Dennis passed away in 2003 due to pancreatic cancer, and Thatcher's health declined around this time. She was diagnosed with dementia in 2005 and died in 2013 at the age of 87. Several people, including the Queen, attended her funeral, but I do doubt that we will see her in any of the upcoming seasons all that much. Now, before we get into the ending and all that it leaves for the future, I just want to remind you that we do videos like this every day, so if you're enjoying it, then please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit the 400,000 mark by the end of the year, and it would really mean the world to me to have you around all the time, because I love you. Anyway, as for Diana, she comes to the conclusion in the end that no matter what efforts she puts in place, their relationship is truly doomed. When the family gather at Christmas, Diana tries to talk to the Queen, but all that we've seen throughout the season makes her completely rebuff her. Charles too tries to take further action to separate, but the Queen stands strong and shuts down this idea, stating that they're spoiled little children and making a spectacle of themselves. She tells him he cannot get divorced, but juxtaposing this, Diana seems to want to push for one even more. The immortal Prince Philip goes to her, and she says that if Charles doesn't come around, then she will have to push through, as her happiness is more important than the image she's been forced to portray. She deserves some light in her life, but Philip threatens that if she takes any action to end things officially, that it won't end well for her. The pair are both outsiders, but Philip has accepted his place, whereas Diana refuses to. He says that everyone in the family other than the Queen is an outsider in some ways, and that should Diana step back, that this would cause problems and issues for her with great ramifications. The season ends by hammering home that Diana is very much apart from the family, and that they will likely never truly be a union again. This is symbolised by the closing shots of her standing apart from them, whilst the family all take a photo together. She is very much on the outside of this, away from the Queen, and therefore away from the family. There's a moment where she walks down the stairs, and some horns behind her appear, almost as devil ones, and this feels like how she was viewed by the family. Diana could do no wrong in the public's eye, and many could not understand why, but as we've discussed, there are several reasons. Season 5 will obviously focus on the complete collapse of the pair, and it's arguably one of the toughest times in royal history. As we know, the pair would come to separate, and in 1996 they became divorced. Unfortunately, Diana did not live much longer, and in 1997 she died in a car crash in Paris. Season 5 will likely focus on the build-up to this, as well as the aftermath in which the public mourned her death. The royals themselves also had to deal with the fact that public perception of them changed drastically over this time, and I can imagine that the next entry like this one will take place over a great number of years that show how difficult things were for them due to her death. We also have Prince William and Harry to contend with, and the controversy surrounding Meghan, which one can assume may pop up in Season 6. Either way, I love this season. I think that it brilliantly dramatised the events really well. Obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the entry, so make sure you comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a thumbs up, and if you want something else to watch after this, then definitely check out our breakdown of The Undoing, which is going to be linked at the end. Don't forget we're also giving away 3 copies of the Marvel Phase 2 box set, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 30th of November, so make sure you get involved. If you want to support the channel and get to see content early, then please consider clicking the join button below. You can also come chat us on the Discord server, linked in the description, or heavy spoilers on Twitter. Thanks for making it till the end of the video. You've been the best, I've been Paul, and see you next time.